Well, the night of the 15th, going into the 16th, I was at Graceland, and Elvis calls downstairs. We're going on tour the next day. Portland, Maine, 2 weeks. Elvis says, I want to go to the movies. Set up the theater. I want to see that movie with Gregory Peck, MacArthur. So just Zito picked up the phone, and he didn't want Elvis to go. And Elvis said, I have to go to the dentist now. When I come back, so Elvis went to the dentist. It's midnight. For some reason, thankfully, the projectionist had a crisis with his family and couldn't go, so we couldn't see the movie. Great. Elvis came back about an hour and a half later. When I heard the front door open, I went to see him. And he had his sunglasses on. And he took his sunglasses off, and he looked at me. That man can communicate with his eyes. And he looked at me, and he gave me a look. And he shook his head. He put his glasses on, and walked upstairs. I went in the other room in the den, and I sat down, and I thought, oh my God, why are we going on tour? This should not happen. He's not ready. He's not ready. About 5 minutes later, the phone rang from his room downstairs. And someone shook me, actually. I was in such deep thought about what's going on. I was so emotional. I said, Larry, the phone. Elvis wants you. Oh, I got on the phone. And Elvis said, Lawrence, did you bring me my books, some more books? And when he said that, it was so odd. Because his voice, I never heard his voice like this before. He didn't sound like that guy that walked through the door. His voice was like pure. I thought to myself, God, he sounds like a teenager. I said, of course I did. He said, did you bring me that book of the Holy Shroud of Turin? And I said, yeah, I did. And I happen to have it here for you. And we started talking, and all of a sudden, he started laughing like a little kid. And then I started laughing. And you know, it's like when someone laughs and you have to laugh, it's infectious. And that's what happened. We were both sitting there, and it was stupid almost. And I thought to myself, Elvis is fine. Oh, I'm so glad. This is what I'm thinking as I'm laughing. Oh, he's okay. It was my imagination. Elvis says, so come on upstairs. We got a lot to talk about. I said, Elvis, we're going on tour tomorrow. We have the next couple, we'll be every day. We'll talk. I bought some books, and we'll talk. We got a lot going on, and you need some sleep. He said, you think so? I said, yeah, and he started laughing again. We both started laughing. It was like a weird moment. And I knew it was odd, and I couldn't put my finger on it. But I liked it because of the sound of his voice, yet I don't know. I couldn't put my finger on it. And then Elvis said, well, whatever's right. I said, Elvis, I'm going to go to my room. See you tomorrow. Come upstairs, take care of your hair. We'll talk. We're going. He said, okay, but remember, angels fly because they take themselves so lightly. Oh, that was beautiful, I thought. Hung up. It was the last time I ever spoke to Elvis. Went to my room, About an hour later, Elvis wanted his books. So if someone came to my room, I gave him the books. And as everyone knows, Elvis's body was found in a fetal position with the book clutched to his chest. He was reading about Jesus, and he split. He left. His father said to me that day, Larry, you've got to go to the funeral parlor to take care of Elvis's hair. You know how he should look. He would want you there. Went to the funeral parlor. As I drove in, I saw thousands of people outside. It was 8 in the morning. Thousands of people. Kids, older people, black people, white people. And everyone had the same look on their face. Anguish. And the same look in their eyes. And I heard 3 helicopters. And every time to this day when I hear a helicopter, that moment, it's back there, it resonates. I get out of my car, I have my bag with me, with my stuff. Charlie's there with Robert Candell, 6 or 7 police officers. I walked into the room, knowing the reality. I knew. Elvis was a living masterpiece. And I looked at that face, those lips, and I remember thinking, that voice will never sing again. That voice. That voice, it would tear our hearts. Fill it with joy. And I said to him, silent, Elvis, we believed every word you said. Do not forget. Never forget this, Larry. Never forget this moment. This is one of the most extraordinary moments that could ever happen. This is history. This is Elvis. You're going to have to tell people. And all of a sudden, it was like I was watching a video. And all of a sudden, picture after picture after picture, just like all the memories were like cascading down. And I remember the kid, hi, Elvis, and all the times it just happened so quick. And all of a sudden a memory stuck of something that happened 11 years earlier. It was 1966. And every day I would go upstairs to do Elvis's hair. We can go out that night to the Memphian Theater and whatever. And I knocked on his door in his bedroom. And I opened the door. Elvis said, come on in. I opened the door, and there's Elvis. When you know someone's body language, you know immediately. And I thought, uh-oh. I said, what's wrong? He looked at me. He said, what's wrong? I'll tell you what's wrong. And he hands me a magazine. Because in those days, it wasn't the National Enquirer and the Star or the Globe or that type of thing. It was the movie magazines. Elvis said, go on, read the headline. And of course, his picture was on the cover. And it said, Elvis in deep grief over his mother's death. He said, hey man, my mom died 8 years ago. You never get over your mother, your father, anyone you love. It's always there. You never get over it. But I came to terms with it. It was 8 years ago. Read further. So I started to read, and it said something like this. Elvis's friends and family are very worried about Elvis. because they hear him pacing back and forth, crying in the wee hours of the morning. And one insider, this little trick they use, insider, right, said they were afraid Elvis might want to join his mother. Elvis, do you believe that, man? Look at the tricks they, I mean, these people, how can they do a thing like that? Grieve? I hope you never have to grieve like that, Larry, ever. And that's what I thought when I'm standing about Elvis's body. And it fits so perfectly. And I said to him silently, not in front of all these strangers in the room, Elvis, you had it all. You had everything. And you suffered for it. You suffered for it. You suffered for your genius. You suffered for what you really wanted to do. And for all the gifts. Then I noticed he had a regrowth of white hair, gray hair everywhere. I didn't bring my dyes. I brought my hair blower and my scissors and the spray. I know I was going to have to spray the hell out of it. What am I going to do? We can't bring him to Graceland. There was a lady there. I said, "Do you have your mascara?" She said, I mean, never forget her, a small little girl. Yes, I do. I said, what color? She said, black. Oh, God, thank you. In those days, it wasn't the wand like today. I spit in it, you know, smeared it, blended it in. And then it took me about 45 minutes. His hair would not go. His life force left the body. This was the physical remains of Elvis Presley. And he had a look on his face that stunned me. And I kept thinking, what is... His soul left, but there was a peace. There was a certain kind of... that put me at peace in a certain way, even though I was freaked out. So I did his hair, sprayed it and sprayed it and sprayed it. Brought his body to Graceland at noon. And everyone finally got to see Elvis, and the family and the friends and the guys who worked for... This was it. The funeral was going to be the next day. And all the fans were going to be allowed, because we brought the body to the opening of Graceland later, but the family and friends got Lisa, little Lisa Marie, 9 years old, came up to see her daddy. And I couldn't leave Elvis. I couldn't leave the end of the casket. I just stood there all day. Charlie was there too. Lisa walks up. I was looking at her face, and she put her hands on it. She felt them. She put her hands here. And then she started to run her fingers through his hair, and I thought, oh God. Oh no. She's going to ruin his hair. No. I can't say anything. I wouldn't, you know. So then she left. And I went over. And I noticed something. It was like he was bathed in a bliss that I can't describe, but I saw it. So the next afternoon was August the 18th. It was the funeral at Graceland. The funeral was over, and we, meaning Vernon and Jerry and Joe and George Klein and Sam Thompson and Dick Grobe, Alan Fortas, Billy Smith, and the guys were at the casket. Robert Candell from the funeral parlor was there. Joe Esposito took Elvis's TCB ring off, handed it to Mr. Presley, who was standing right here. I was standing here. And I remember Mr. Presley yelled out, "Son, this is it, the final curtain." And Robert Candela said, well, I'm going to have to close the casket. We've got to go. Elvis going to be buried. And I made a decision. And I knew I had to do what I had to do. I remember one night, before Elvis went on the stage, when he was going through stuff, I couldn't believe he was walking on that stage. I walked him to the stage, and I said to him right before he walked on, I said, Elvis, tell me, how do you do it? And he looked at me. He said, a man does what he has to do, what he's born to do, no matter what. Cream rises to the top. I love that. The casket's coming, the lid's coming down, and I made a conscious decision. I wanted to be the last person to ever touch Elvis Presley. So I put my hand in, quickly, on his forehead. And I said something silently. I wanted to, I had to. And that's the way it is. That's the way it is, and here we are. 35 years later, and it's like Elvis never left us. And in a sense, he didn't. He still remains in a very unique way. His image, his music, and the force of his personality is here. People have asked me over the years, what would Elvis think? You know, most visited home in America is Graceland. 600,000 people, 700,000, from all over the world. They come, they walk up to the meditation garden, to where he's buried. They want that contact, they want that feeling, they want that touch, some are curious, some are just enthralled. What about the candlelight vigil? The candlelight vigil. Year after year after year. It goes on for 12, 14 hours. No other entertainer, politician, or religious leader in this country, or anywhere in the world, has a candlelight vigil every year. Elvis climbed Mount Everest, and he planted his flag. It's the only flag up there. He did it alone. He did it. You know, it's amazing when you think about it. You take all the great luminaries, and I'm a fan of every person I'm going to mention. Rudolph Valentino, Clark Gable, the King of Hollywood, John Wayne, Marilyn Monroe, James Dean, Frank Sinatra, and throw a few more in. And they're all right here. More people go to visit Elvis Presley each year than the rest combined. It would blow his mind. That's what I'm telling you. It would blow his mind. He would love it. But not in an egotistical way. That's not who he was. I mean, he was shy. He was shy. He knew he was Elvis Presley, of course. I brought him books on every major and some you never heard of, leaders in the realm of religion and spirituality, the world's great wisdom traditions. And Elvis read their stories. He wanted to know how they reacted to people, what they did with their lives to help people. The beacons of light. That's what he wanted to know. That's what he wanted to know. And here's the irony. Here's the irony in the secret, so to speak. The way the world has reacted, the outpouring of love, is what Elvis really wanted. This is what he yearned for. All life, as far as I'm concerned, all life, every one of us, comes from the divine, from love, from love. That's what Elvis Presley was all about. That first afternoon when I did his hair, he said to me, he was so proud when he said it, he said, you know, my mom's middle name is Love. That was her name, Gladys Love Presley. And that's all Elvis wanted to do, and that's what he did. That's what he did. That's his legacy. And that's why we're here today. And it's no coincidence that we're here. It's no coincidence that everything that happened since Elvis left just kind of happened because he was this great singer. No. Something else is happening. This goes way beyond the entertainment world. If we knew, if any of us knew, some of the lives that have been transformed and changed because of Elvis Presley, oh my God, it would blow our minds. I know so many times when I'm going through something, or I have a problem, or it's emotional, or whatever, and I listen to Jim Sykes on Sirius Radio every day. All you have to do is listen to Elvis' music. And something happens. He communicated and penetrated to the very heart and core of humanity. He has healed us. Elvis is a healer. He's a channel of love. Thank you for being here and listening.